Hi, my name is Ralph McDaniels. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, born in Brooklyn, raised in Queens Village, New York, and I'm a film and video producer plus host.
Okay. So, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in Queens for you?
Well, when I moved to Queens, it was not a lot of black people here. So the first time I ever was called the N-word was by a white person that lived on the block. You know, and he was like, "Look, my nigga," I was a kid. And in fact, I think that's the first person that ever called me a nigga. You know, it wasn't like me talking to another black person. It was a white person. And so I was a little shocked by it, but I didn't know, I didn't take it that serious because I didn't think it was that bad at the time, 'cause I didn't know. But that was the first time that I ever heard that word. And then that was around that time, you know, when black folks were coming from Brooklyn and moving to Queens, and you might have wanted to move, maybe you wanted to move to Jamaica Estates, but you couldn't. They put you in Queens Village, or they put you in Cambria Heights, put you in St. Albans, Hollis, areas like that, that they felt, you know, that was cool for black people to live in. Redlining, they call it. They put you in those areas, you know. So if you wanted to move to Belrose, you couldn't move over there, or Bayside, you couldn't move over there. You had to move over here, and that's where they said houses were available for us. So you know, like a lot of times, you know, like I played little league baseball, football. You know, there was only a handful of black kids at the time that played. You know, so we always kind of stood out. But you know, we was just trying to live out, you know, the dream. You know, the so-called American dream, and do what we could to, you know, be part of the community. But for a long time, you know, it was difficult because, you know, people treated you different. You know, we didn't ask to be treated different. We were different, and they treated you different. So so that was part of growing up in Queens Village back then. Now Queens Village is predominantly black, and you know, it amazes me when I hear like young dudes going, "Yo, this is the hood." I'm like, it wasn't the hood when I moved here. You know, it wasn't the hood, and actually the prices of homes probably haven't changed, so it's still not the hood. So you know, it's all in your head what you think is the hood. You know, so I think that's a perspective that people need to look at.
What do you feel like made the youth feel like it was the hood?
I think that, you know, if you don't own something, you could look at something as the hood. You know, I would tell, you know, some of them young people, I would go like, okay, so go ask that man or, you know, that lady that lives in that house if they think this is the hood, you know, because they pay a mortgage every month, you know. And if you pay mortgage and you're a responsible person in the community, you start to look at things a little different, you know. So until you do that, you know, I don't know what is the hood.
What are your opinions on the drug war that happened in this area, or the drug epidemic that hit this area so hard at one point in time?
The drug epidemic, the drug epidemic in Queens, to me, you know, came out of our close proximity to airports. You know, we have two airports in New York City, in the 5 boroughs, and they're both in Queens, Kennedy and LaGuardia. So when drugs came in, at least by plane, they were dropped off in Queens. They were in Elmhurst, where LaGuardia, or in Springfield. I mean, you know, South Jamaica, you know, Southeast Queens. And so all of that is relevant to the community. So if you worked at the airport and you knew something was coming through and you could grab up something, and then you told your man that something just dropped off, all of a sudden now those areas are flooded with drugs. And it's not by mistake that those areas were, you know, heavy drug areas. East Elmhurst was heavy drugs. Corona, Astoria, Long Island City, all of that is affected by that. On the other side, where Kennedy is at, is South Jamaica, St. Albans, Cambria Heights, Laurelton, even into Howard Beach, in those areas. Now, the black people that lived in those areas had money. They were middle-class black people. They worked. Both people worked. Both mother and father worked in those areas. They had jobs. They came out of the 60s. They were doing well. And so they all had money in those areas. So when the black kids who were hustling figured out that they could get these drugs, they didn't go to the white neighborhoods. They sold it in their own neighborhoods first because it was easier. You know, like, oh, the lady down the block, you know, I could tell she want to get high, you know, but she might have been sniffing coke. Now comes crack, which is a whole different ball game and much more addictive. And it literally burns through these communities and destroys the communities. Now people can't pay their mortgages. They're losing their homes. People are getting killed. All kinds of things are happening that never happened up to that point. Same thing is happening in East Elmhurst. East Elmhurst is where, you know, some of the greatest people in literaries live. You know, Langston Hughes, Malcolm X. You know, By Any Means Necessary. That shot with the gun, with the gun by any means, and him looking out the window. That's in East Elmhurst, Queens. And so all of those people grow up in those areas. You know, they're smart people. You know, they you know, it wasn't that bad. All of a sudden, that crack hits, and those people are messed up, and it wipes out that whole area. You know, so now when you look at some of these areas, it's like in Jamaica, South Ozone, South Jamaica, you know, it's not as many black people. You see more people from other places that have moved in because those black people lost their homes, and those black people over on the other side in East Elmhurst lost their homes. So now you see more South Americans in East Elmhurst, Corona, and that story. So that just opened it up for this to happen. But it was all by design because it was like, okay, let's test it out here. And even Harlem knows Queens was getting it crazy. You know, because Queens cats was going to Harlem, to the hip hop spots. Queens cats was going to the Bronx. We had money, had cars, everybody had jewelry, all the flies. Queens cats was rolling up on all these spots, and cats uptown was like, they get money out there in Queens because, you know, that's what was going on. That drug life.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy, especially being from this area and really hearing it from somebody that experienced it. A lot of things don't get told to us, and we just, you know, see what we see. What are some of the schools you went to?
I went to high school. I went to Bayside High School. Okay. And that was the beginning of busing kids out of this area, South Jamaica, to other schools. So you could go to, at that time, you could go to either Francis Lewis High School, Bayside, or Cardozo. And so I chose Bayside because I wanted to play football. And most of the guys around my way played football. And so that was the thing, to go to Bayside to play football. So I played football at Bayside, and I played basketball and ran track. And then after that, I went to LaGuardia Community College, which was in Long Island City and in Queens. And then from there, and that's how I got into the media, because I was introduced to this counselor who told me about you could get an internship at a TV station. So before I got to LaGuardia, I was already a DJ. I was DJing in clubs. I mean, I was DJing in parties and, you know, basements and, you know, the outside in the park, plugging into lampposts, all of that kind of stuff that you see in the old documentaries. We was doing that in Queens, plugging into lampposts. Now, you know, so I was into the music. Now it was like, okay, what else can I do? And they said something about TV. And I said, I'd be interested in that because it kind of reminds me of what I do with the music. And so I got an internship at LaGuardia Community College to work at a cable company. Nobody had cable at the time. Only people who had cable was in Manhattan. So this is back in the days. This is in the 80s. And I got a job working at a cable company. I used to come back to Queens and people go, what's cable? Because nobody had cable. All we had was channels, whatever was on your TV, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and maybe one other channel. So you might have had like maybe 10, 11 channels. Whatever that TV could bring in. There was no cable box coming into your house or nothing like that. It was whatever it picked up off the little antennas on the TV. Yeah. It was all through the airwaves. And that's how people got TV. In Manhattan, they had cable. Cable gave you, at that time, maybe 50 channels of other stuff that wasn't on your TV. And I was like, yo, cable is crazy because you can watch things that are not on the TV. Like, how is that possible? Because it's a cable running to your house. Oh, okay. So nobody had cable when I first started working there. So that was the beginning of cable. and that's how I got into the TV business.
Yeah, it's interesting because so my mom is from this area. My dad's actually from the Bronx. And he told me he used to when he came to Queens, it was the only way he could actually see your show and know like the new videos that was out and how he like really was able to keep up with hip hop. I guess Queens got cable before the Bronx.
Probably got it first.
Yeah,
I think the projects, a lot of the projects got it. For some reason they wired the projects. So like Jay-Z told me, you know, he used to watch it and nobody else had it in the neighborhood. Jay-Z would watch Video Music Box because they had it in Marcy. I was given a job at NYC TV, which is where we air right now. Still we air at the same place. And I went to them and I said, you know, I want to do a show. It's called Video Music Box. And they didn't get it. They didn't know what that was. I said, well, what is it? I said, well, we're going to do interviews and maybe have some performances, and then we're going to play music videos. And they go, well, what is music videos? Because music videos didn't exist like that yet. Nobody had, MTV wasn't on TV. Nobody even saw MTV. MTV claims they started in 1980. Nobody saw MTV. There was no MTV. In somebody's mind, it started in 1980. So, because people go, oh, it's 40th anniversary. I said, there was no MTV. Nobody had it. Maybe they had it in Manhattan Cable. So I wanted to create a show that had black people on it all the time. Not saying I didn't care about white people, but I just wanted to be more black people. So I searched for videos and performances of black people performing. So once I got that together, I had about maybe 4 shows that were a half an hour long that we could present. Back then, you repeated stuff all the time. It wasn't like every week there was a new show, so you could get away with that. They wasn't with it. They didn't get it. And they just didn't see it, because what happens whenever you come up with something that's new and people don't have something to reference against it, they don't understand it. You know, if I said I was going to make a virtual movie and do it and have effects, nobody might, well, they might get it now, but people would not understand what I'm talking about until they see Spielberg do it. And then they go, oh, this is good. That's the same thing I said. I put together a little demo, showed it to them. They were like, okay, when do you want to do this? Oh, we want to do it so it comes on. Can you do it after school? Yes. Because we want to reach teens. Yes. What time? 3:30? Okay. Can you do it every day? Yes. All right, so we're going to do it. And I didn't even have enough content to do it every day, but I said yes. So that made me motivate to go out and find content. We were just obtaining content. I never wanted to be on TV. I was like, nah, we're just going to show videos from Michael Jackson, from Stevie Wonder, from Rick James, from Lionel Richie, all the people that were hot in the 80s in that time. And some white videos that we thought was cool. So, the show came on. All you heard was my voice. Yo, this is Ralph McDaniels, Video Music Box. You're watching New York's #1. Don't go nowhere. Boom. So after a while, people said, we want to see you because we want to see the person behind the voice. And I was like, nah, I don't want to be a TV star. You know, I'm good. I don't want people to know who I am. You know, and they were like, nah, you got to do it. So I started showing myself. And one of the big shows that we did was the Fresh Fest in 1985. So the Fresh Fest was the first hip-hop tour. It included Run DMC, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5, Houdini, the Fat Boys, LL Cool J was just starting to get going, and the Dynamic Breakers, they were breaking through. And that's how it started. And once we aired that, and people saw a whole concert on TV, people were bugging. They were like, yo, this is crazy. And that was the beginning. And many people that got into the business said that when they saw that, that's what made them want to get into become directors and filmmakers and producers and what have you. So that's how we broke ground for hip hop with the visuals, because there was no visuals on it. Every once in a while, you might see on Soul Train, Run DMC, Eric B. and Rakim, Public Enemy. No, that was later, Public Enemy. Run DMC was the first. Another group out of Queens. Run DMC broke down mad barriers because because Russell Simmons was the first to commercialize hip hop like that, to sell it in a big way. Russell Simmons was a promoter, a friend of mine. He used to have parties. He was called Rush, and we would have parties and want me to DJ the party. So I was a DJ before I got into the TV thing, and invite me to things that he was doing, just because I was into the music like that, and I had some influence in Queens in the clubs. So that's how it all jumped off. And so whatever I wanted to do something, I would go to Russell and say, yo, you know, can we shoot the concert? And Russell would go, all right, we'll figure out a way to do it, Ralph. So I had access by Russell.
With Video Music Box, what were some of the videos that you broke? Some of the most notable videos, like your tops?
Some of the top videos that we broke, definitely Rockbox by Run DMC. That was a big deal when we played that. The big deal when we played Eric B and Rakim. I know, not I know you got so. I Ain't No Joke. It was a big deal when we played Big Daddy Kane, Ain't No Half Stepping. The big deal when we played Biz Markie, The Vapors. You know, it's so many because there was nowhere else for these artists to get their videos played. You know, it's like, where else are we going to go? MTV wasn't playing videos like that until 1987. We were on in 1983. So for 4 years, there was literally nowhere to go. And then when MTV started playing them, they only played the top tier, you know, top 10, you know. And we started playing stuff that was underground, you know. You know, I remember when we first got Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang Clan, RZA comes to me with his video. They're not even signed to a label. RZA goes, yo, man, I got this new group. I said, all right, it's called Wu-Tang Clan. I'm like, Wu-Tang Clan, what's that? He plays it for me. I'm like, it's dope. So when you finish it, you can give it to me because it had the time code numbers running on the bottom. He said, nah, it's finished. And I was like, it still got the time code numbers on it. Then that's like a reference for directors and producers and editors. And so he was like, nice, you can play it like that. He said, nobody ever did that, right? And I was like, all right. And we played it with the time code on it. And still to this day, if you watch it on YouTube, it has the time code on it. So that was the first time. They weren't even signed to a record label. And then a couple of months later, Loud Records was like, you know, we're thinking about signing Wu-Tang. What do you think, Ralph? I said, absolutely, you should sign it. Not because I thought, I hadn't even heard all that stuff. I said it because there was another black group, another black man trying to get a deal, and why not put some money in his pocket? RZA came back 6 months later and said, Ralph, I want you to direct one of our videos. I said, what song? He said, Cream. I said, all right, I'm with that. And I directed Cream for them and numerous other ones after that. But see, how you helped one man, and it helped you out and came back to you.
You also have a history of directing and producing music videos. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, the reason why we started, me and my partner Lionel Martin, who's probably one of the greatest music video directors of all time, started doing it, was like, we grew up in, I grew up in Queens Village, he grew up in Cambridge Heights, and we met, and my father used to have a store, so the newspaper and candy and cigarettes and stuff like that. And he used to come to the store, come to my father's store and buy the paper for his father, the New York Times, because we were the only place that sold the New York Times in that area. And so me and Lionel was talking, and we both was into music. He collect records, I collect records, and we started a DJ crew, the Brothership Connection. We started the Brothership, and we started DJing parties and stuff, and outside jams and other stuff. And we would go record shopping together, and we got into a record pool, and we would go to the place and pick up our records and all of that. I got the internship at NYC TV. Lionel was in college for something else. And I said, he wasn't happy with what he was doing. I said, yo, Lionel, I think you might dig this TV thing because it kind of reminds me of what we do as a DJ crew. And we started Classic Concept Production for the reason of creating videos that there was no video for. That's why we started Classic Concept Production. We just were gonna, you know, there was a song that we liked from 3 years ago. We're gonna take that song and we're gonna make visuals for it. We met a guy named Fly Ty who started Cold Chillin' Records, him, Mr. Magic, Molly Marr, and they said we want to do a video for this girl named Roxanne Shante. It's called Roxanne's Revenge. And I said, okay, and we shot it. We had never shot a video before. And this other guy was supposed to do it, but he didn't know how. And they said, Ralph's got to do it. He's got the TV show. We can air it right away on the TV show, and it's going to make sense from a marketing standpoint. We shot the video, came out, and it took off. 30 years later, I ended up being a producer for Roxanne on Netflix. Oh man, Classic Concept did over 400 music videos. We've done the whole Boyz II Men first album, and that came from working with Biv Devoe. We did Poison, Do Me, Thought It Was Me, I Can't Stand the Rain. All of these videos for Biv Devoe and New Edition. But before that, we did like most of the Big Daddy Kane videos, almost all of the Biz Markie videos, Coogee Rap and Polo, X Clan, Public Enemy, Nas, his first video, Wu-Tang, I mentioned that, I did Cream for Wu-Tang, Black Moon, Who Got the Props, which is a beginning of another movement, Backpack Movement, Whitney Houston, Tony Braxton, you name it, any of that, SWV, Keith Sweat, Guy, that whole 80s, late 80s, maybe to mid 90s, that was us. That was our whole lane.
What was it like doing Nas's first video?
It was dope. Well, I did this thing. They called me first. Nas is a fan of the show first. He watches video music box every day, just like Jay-Z, Biggie, and all these other people. He watches the show. It's like that's how he learns about music. He's a sponge for everything. He's taking in all music as a young teenager, and he's taking it in. The video music box is showing him the visual. And so when he got his deal, he said, "Yo, can we get Ralph McDaniels to shoot something?" So they called me up, and they said they want to do an EPK. Well, EPK is electronic press kit. So it basically talks about the album, who the producers are, tells you a little bit about the song. Nas talks, the producers talk, maybe somebody from the record label talks, and you put it all into about 7-8 minutes. And you present it to press. It's not really for the TV. It's for press and other people to learn about this project coming out, Illmatic. So I did that with all the producers, Q-Tip, Premier, Large Professor, Pete Rock, LES, I said Q-Tip, and whoever else the producers were. I took it and I put it on TV. Nobody had ever took those EPKs and put it on TV, because I just thought it was dope. So when I put it on TV, all of New York and New Jersey and Connecticut saw it. So the buzz was crazy for Nas. Like 2 days later after I play it, the label calls me and is like, "Yo, we got to get a video out immediately, like next week. Can you do the first video off of Illmatic?" So I said, all right. So I listened to the album. I'm like, yo, I'll do this one, but I really want to do The World Is Yours. That's the one I like. That's the song I like. And so they were like, yeah, well, let's get this out first. So they came with me, It Ain't Hard to Tell. And I directed It Ain't Hard to Tell, and we got it out in like 6 days. And that was Nas's, off of Illmatic, the first single released. There was another video for Halftime, but it was from another song. They put it on the album, but Illmatic was, It Ain't Hard to Tell was the first video from that song. And Nas, you know, when I talked to Nas about it back then, you know, he was just like, yo, man, I just wanted to feel like I'm watching video music out. And I was like, all right, I could do that. That's easy. And that was the concept. So he left it up to me to do what I wanted to do. And, you know, I wanted to show his style. I knew he was a good-looking guy. So we got to give him that sex appeal look, you know, but but edgy. And we shot it. It was like snow on the ground. So, you know, we had to figure out a way to get it done pretty quickly. So it happened. Independently owned, own our own content. You know, in 2020 we license our content. Half the documentaries that you see out there, they probably got it somewhere, something in that documentary from Ralph McDaniels. Hip Hop Evolution, any documentaries on BET, any documentaries on MTV, any documentaries on TV One, you know, Unsung and all of that stuff. You name it, it probably came from Video Music Box. I was the associate producer on Juice. First time Tupac comes to New York for a long time, and we worked together with Juice on Juice, and you know, Omar Epps, who's a huge actor, and others that were part of that movement. that was a renaissance for black filmmakers. You know, it wasn't always like that. We didn't always get the opportunity. We had to fight for the opportunities to get black filmmakers to make music videos. Forget about making movies, you know, or directing TV episodes. Now, everybody's doing it. And we were the organization that started that. Myself, a guy named Rolando Hudson, Spike, of course. But it all happened in that early 80s, you know. There were other filmmakers before us, you know, the black film genre at the time in the 70s and stuff like that. And then we get waves, and it comes up. And, you know, and our wave was not necessarily the film, even though we shot in film, it was more for TV, and it was more a video kind of process, you know. Now it's a file, it's an MP4.
Yeah. So what was it like producing Juice?
I came in on Juice through a producer that worked with my company, Sabrina Gray, and she was working on Juice, and she said, Ralph, they need your help here because they're not getting responses from any of the hip-hop artists. Nobody knows about these producers. Nobody wants to be down with this. You gotta understand, these guys came from California. They wanted to shoot in New York. We didn't necessarily trust California like that, taking our image and doing whatever with it. So hip-hop was like, you know, we don't really know what we're gonna do. So I went to the office, I sat down with the producers. I sat down with Ernest Dickerson, who was the cinematographer for Spike Lee. This was his first directing video. He had never directed anything, so I knew he could shoot, but I didn't know from a directing standpoint, you know, how that was gonna work out. I sat down with them, they were like, we want you to be a consultant. And I was like, I started looking at the credits of movies, and the people that were consultants were like, you know, financial consultants, music consultants. I was like, I don't think that's the right title for me. Can I be a producer, some kind of producer? So they made me a producer, associate producer. And then the first person I called was Queen Latifah. And I said, yo, they're shooting this movie called Juice. I think they might have reached out to you a couple times. They think you're blowing them off. You're like, I am blowing them off. I don't know who those people are. I said, I'm working on it now. She said, oh, you down with it? Okay, boom. Queen Latifah shows up because Ralph McDaniels is down with it. She brings Tretch. She brings whoever else. I called my boy Red Alert. I called whoever I knew that I could just call. Say, yo, I need to get hip hop down here. We need to get the word out that this is popping off. I called the Bomb Squad from Long Island. They do all the Public Enemy music. I said, yo, they need somebody to do the soundtrack and they want y'all. And the Shockley brothers, they come through. Boom. So now everybody's showing up and they starting to get it going. And that's what I did. I bought the glue to bring the project together. The only person they had when they first got there was Tupac. That was the only person that was down. And about 3 months or 2 months into, we was starting to talk about shooting. We had pre-production first, you know, casting and all that stuff. So I started talking about shooting. Diddy wanted to be Tupac. I mean, wanted Tupac's role, Bishop. And I was like, that's the only role that they have. They came with Tupac. That's the only person that was casted already. And Diddy wanted it. He was like, yo, man, that's me. You know, I'm from Harlem. I'm that cat. I read the script. It's dope. I said, I don't think that could happen. And they couldn't. They couldn't. But it's interesting, the irony between those two, you know, as time will go on.
Yeah. What was it like being on the set with Tupac?
Tupac was very serious about his job. You got to remember, Tupac stopped doing everything he was doing to make that movie. He moved from Cali to New York, even though he had family here in Queens. But he stopped doing what he was doing with Digital Underground and moved to New York. And that was a big deal for him to stop doing what he was doing because, you know, he was on the road making money, but, you know, he wasn't the main part of the group. And so he was more serious than anybody. Everybody else could go back to their house in Brooklyn or in Queens or Manhattan or wherever. Tupac was in a hotel. You know, he was here for business. And so when the other guys were joking around, he started getting into like, yo, man, I'm not playing. I'm serious about what I'm doing here. I want to win. This got to be a hit. This is my life. I'm stopped everything to do this. And so he made everybody take it much more seriously.
Wow. What's Tupac's relationship with Queens?
A lot of Shakur's in Queens. Yeah, Queens was where the Black Panthers were, on Linden Boulevard. So his mother is connected to the Black Panthers. So when you came to Queens, from Linden Boulevard, you know, from like, you know, Merrick to, I don't know, maybe Springfield, that was a culture hub for black people. The Panthers were there. You had a whole bunch of jazz musicians that lived in that area. There was just so much culture in those. That's why you get a Q-tip, you know, with a Tribe Called Quest. The complexities of that. Nobody understood what Tribe Called Quest was. Wait, what? What are you talking about? Why can't y'all be Run DMC or everything like a Tribe Called Quest? There's like a lot in that title. So that's how deep Linden Boulevard is.
What's your relationship like with Daymond John?
Daymond came to me in the early 90s with a shirt and it said FUBU on it. And I was like, what does that mean? And he said FUBU. And I was like, well, what does FUBU mean? And he was like, for us, by us. And I looked at him, it was the most incredible thing I ever heard in my life. I was like, that's a dope name. I said, yo, I love this, because that's where I come from. Like, let's build up our brothers and sisters who are trying to do something, especially if it's something that's dope. Daymond didn't have nothing going on. He had his shirts. He was selling them on Jamaica Ave, hand to hand, whatever he had. And a guy named Keith, that's also part of FUBU, came to me and was like, yo, you know, came to my mother actually. And he worked with my mother and said, you know, is it possible that Ralph could interview my team, the FUBU team, on Video Music Box? And so I did it, I played it, and it just like, all of their dreams became reality in that one interview. And everybody saw it, and they got the feedback, and they knew that what they were doing was making sense, you know, that it could win. And so he's never forgot that. He's, you know, his first book, he talks about me. Anything he's doing, you know, if he can fit me into it, calls me up and says, yo, you know, could you direct this for me? You know, could you do this for me? Or I need some, you know, whatever it is. And we've been friends since that day.
Yeah, and it's true, he really started out selling shirts on Jamaica Avenue?
On the Ave.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Straight up on the Ave. Maybe he would walk around with 10 shirts. He'd be fronting, he'll tell you. He was fronting like he had a whole, you know, like he was, you know, Ralph Lauren or Polo or something, you know. It wasn't like that. He was making them shirts up in his basement.
What are some of the trends you feel like you started? Maybe in hip hop or journalism or just in general?
The style of, you know, going into clubs and, you know, and talking to people with the microphone. The word shout out, we started. Nobody said that. You know, now you hear, that's like a regular part of American talk language. You know, 45, the president moved. Oh yeah, we got to give a shout out to the military. The way he says it and the way it is, I started that. People ask me, do I get my just due? I'm happy. You know, like Biggie said, more money, more problems. You know, and the awards, I got plenty of them. You know, and I'm happy with that. Do I want to do other things? Absolutely. You know, do I want to retire one day and say I'm not doing this no more? Absolutely, but I can't now. I don't have that much money. So, and there's other things that I want to see and I want to, you know, experiment with, because we have so many stories to tell as filmmakers and culture, you know, curators of the culture.
What's next for you?
Next coming up is the Video Music Box collection, you know, and I hope people will understand that we have 37 years worth of content that we're now digitizing. A lot of this stuff is still analog, and we need to put it into digital form. And the reason why I want to do it first is to preserve it, because it's our history. We want to go back and see what the early 80s looked like, not just hip-hop artists, but R&B artists, reggae, New York, Brooklyn, Queens, all these different landscapes and places we were shooting. We have it, but we need to have it digitized and tagged and properly done so that we can get it out to the rest of the world and offer it to the next Ralph McDaniels or the next whoever, Spike Lee, you know, that they can use that. It's like Black Getty Images. So people who don't know what Getty Images is, it's a place where you can go and get content. We want to create that for African American culture.
Do you have any comments on current events, coronavirus, race relations, Trump?
Coronavirus, look, I say stay safe. I don't know, you know, the technicals on that right there, but I still wear my gloves and my mask. But as far as Black Lives Matter is concerned, I think that the institutions that exist where systemic racism exists need to change, and we're seeing it, and it has to change in a big way, because you know, in my generation, you know, they put a Band-Aid on it, or they threw some money at people and everybody went along with it, and then they went back to their old ways. We can't go back to our old ways, and I don't think the millennial generation is going to have it, because they've seen it too much and been affected by it in too many ways. The people, the younger people or the young adults have been let down by the churches, let down by the police, let down by you know, the prison system, let down by their parents, let down by, you know, you name it, and they don't believe. So the only way they're going to believe is you really have to show and prove to this generation that's out here protesting on the front line, and I salute them. I respect it, and I definitely got you back.